Hello, everyone. This is Brent from Enter Your Wealth, and I'm so happy that you're here today because we are going over the financial markets and what's the next move with them. All right, so this is the SPY, guys, and we know that the SPY is very indicative of what's going to happen in the overall market. This is the broader market. So previously we had this correction here, and we saw that the Omicron variant plus inflation not being transitory, bad jobs numbers, all kind of cause a lot of fear in the market. And when we look at the VIX, we'll see that it was pretty a fearful market. But today we had two green days. This green day was a little bit of an optimistic one. We saw a lot of strength in the recovery stocks, such as Carnival Cruise Lines. Today, I think it got 1%, but not too strong anymore. But we had this nice little jump up here. You can see we even came back down, had a nice opportunity to retest this trend line here. And I think, we may be coming down to retest the 20 EMA. That is totally possible. But we're kind of off to the races. Are we going for all-time highs? We're nearing it very strong. This is a really strong candlestick, in my opinion. A lot of buyers coming in. You can see that on the wick there. So next, let's go to the VIX, because I think the VIX is telling us a lot about what is happening here. All right, so if we look at the VIX, guys, and I like to look at this in a really long time frame. So this is coming from the COVID crash, and you can see we've been coming down pretty steadily. There have been spikes, but they were pretty much lower highs, and it's kind of been that way all the way here. Had a little bit of a spike here, came back down to this 15 level, and the 15 level is really where it's been stabilizing a lot. But just recently we were in these high levels, this 37, and that was or not the 37. We're wicking in these 34s, but we had significant closures on the 30, and that was just showing how much fear was in the market, guys. And when you see this, you got to realize when it starts to come down, that means that the markets are losing a lot of the fear, and then things may be reversing in the other direction. So this is an important thing to be watching, definitely, if you haven't been. And we have this gap down, which I think is a really good sign here, closing at this 2190. I think that if we get this closure below the 20, 15 will come soon. But we might stay in this range maybe for another day or so. We'll see what happens tomorrow if we're just going to completely blast off. But this is a really good sign, and I think it's a good time to be kind of nibbling into some positions here if you haven't already. But this doesn't sustain for too long usually. We were here for like 5 or 6 days, right? And the market kind of took off today. So next we should talk about some of the other stocks that have been doing quite well. So Apple doing really well today, reaching all-time highs again, having a strong closure at the 170. And look at this, guys. Apple just going parabolic here pretty much. And you had a lot of opportunities to come by, a lot of indicators to be watching on this one. One that is really important to be watching is the 20 EMA on the daily. As you see, when we had an opportunity here to buy some, and then I like to look at some of the other time frames here too. So on the 4 hour, you see that the 50 EMA was a nice place to be buying at here as well. You see when we came on down, and even when we wicked here, you see we had the closure right here on the 4 hour. So the 4 hour being respected, and also kind of the 2 hour or the 20 EMA, the 4 hour 50 EMA and the 4 hour 20 EMA. So it's important to look at the time frame, seeing what is being respected consistently, because that's going to tell you if that's a strong support or a strong resistance, especially since we have to rely on indicators like this when we are kind of in these no man's land. And what I mean by no man's land is we haven't seen these levels before. There's no historical resistance or support. Not really anyways. Like the next level we'd be looking at are this like 160s, and these intermediate levels aren't really great to be watching. Let me get rid of that. All right, so another important one to be watching, I think, is Carnival Cruise Lines. And the reason why I say that is because Carnival Cruise Lines is kind of been, the recovery stock, right? And we have this gap to kind of fill. I think that's super interesting here. from a technical analyst, from the technical side of things, right? So what tends to happen sometimes is that we see that these gaps actually serve as support or resistance. And you can see that here. We got rejected on that and we came on down a little bit. But that doesn't mean that we're ultimately not going to fill this up. It really depends a lot on the optimism of if we're going to be doing well in the long term here. And you can see we've bounced off previous times with the recovery stock. So I think this is actually a really good play. And if you like this one, I think Disney is also one. Disney is a good stock to be looking at too for the same type of reasons. You can see a similar type of shape here. And you know, Disney has rock solid fundamentals, so this is definitely one that a lot of people should be looking at. And lastly, I want to look here at the IWM because the IWM was in this year-long channel. We were in here for quite a long time, guys. Look at that. Basically, all these stocks didn't perform well in 2021, and it's really kind of sad. And especially with how 2020 performed for the IWM. So year-long channel, there was a lot of buying to have, or there's a lot of buying you could have done here in the IWM. And if you don't know, these are the small caps, so the smaller cap stocks, 2,000 smaller cap stocks. We had this breakout here earlier, and kind of the black swan event of all the Omicron and financial crises really just brought it back down to these new lows. So it was really kind of tragic, but you see that we aren't held down that long. We had a really good green day. I know a lot of these small caps were up like 10% today. So this is definitely one to be watching, especially if we come back down again. I think this one really does want to break out. It's kind of sad that it did break out and then it kind of got hammered super hard from the crisis here. So I'm going to be watching the IWM. I think there's a lot of gains to have there, and I think it will do well into the end of the year, most likely. So obviously a favorite of many is Tesla here. So I like to look at Tesla almost every day just because it's important to see what's going on here. And Tesla hasn't been looking so hot lately, right? But there has been some strong indications in general, I would say. It looks like we did close at the 157. We have this nice hammer formation on the daily here, sitting right on this 200 EMA. So this tends to be a nice reversal pattern that you can see. And you see we respect this $1,000 level many times now, showing that it's pretty strong resistance, or pretty strong support, sorry. And then we are kind of squeezing between these EMAs. Sometimes what will happen here is that we'll have kind of, let's see. So sometimes we'll have something like this, you know, and then some type of breakout. This can happen here. It's hard to say if that's what's going to happen, but we'll squeeze between these EMAs. If we get a closure above the 20 or below the 50, that's going to kind of indicate of a sign of some bad news. So here again, I wanted to highlight the fact that you can see again that the gap served kind of as support there from this wick. So it's always important to mark these type of levels like that because of that reason. So we have the double top here, have this rounded top here as well. So Tesla has been very interesting on how it's been navigating. The 1200 has kind of been sold off by Elon Musk, so you know it's not been the greatest situation. But I think overall Tesla will continue to be bullish. There is apparently some news that Elon is hiding about the end of the year with Tesla. So we're looking for these 1100 and the 1200 level. I don't know if we'll be able to break this all-time high here. I'm kind of thinking that overall this might be just a little bit of a bounce, but I don't know if we'll actually make any all-time highs here, as we haven't really broken out of this downtrend kind of. It's been kind of sideways actions, and the EV sector was hot for like a good month, guys. So like, look at this, look at that run. And then even here, this was great for day trading or scalping. So I think that's it, guys. I hope you enjoyed this stream. I hope you enjoyed this analysis, and please give me a like and follow if you enjoyed it as well. Thank you so much.